Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. All merch is 30% off. Just use promo code SNOWFLAKE at checkout. Check out these brand new shirts, hoodies, and blankets. Take advantage of this deal because it won't last long. Thanksgiving, the time of the year for families to come together, eat delicious food, and scream at each other over politics. That is according to this article from Eater. You are morally obligated to call out your racist relatives at Thanksgiving. And throughout the article, it becomes obvious that the author isn't even referring to actual racist relatives, but instead refers to racist Trump-supporting relatives and family members with a conservative bent. So right off the bat, we're greeted with the shallow, predictable, and cliché Trump supporters are racist, tired argument. But you hear that, guys? You aren't just kinda, sorta supposed to do this. No, you are morally obligated. It's like, don't kill, don't steal, and scream at Trump supporters. In reality, this is a really bad idea if you care at all about fixing the growing division in our country. How about instead of shrieking like a banshee over politics at the dinner table, you have a calm, reasonable discussion like an adult? How about you actually hear someone else's ideas instead of lazily writing them off as racist for your own shallow justification? Now, this article was written by an Amy McCarthy, who honestly has a moral obligation to put down the Dunkin' Donuts. It's quite ironic that she writes for Eater, but it's even more ironic that an article like this is featured on this website. I mean, what the frick? I want to come here to find the recipe for Grandma's chocolate chip cookies, not the recipe for resistance. Writing for the Denver Post, attorney/columnist says, Thanksgiving dinner chatter can become risky business, but it doesn't need to be. We need to listen harder to what people are saying. People that disagree with how we see the world may be our opponents, but they need not be our enemies. They can be our frenemies. This is a bit of a cheesy way of putting it, but generally, I agree with this point. Yes, for one day, let's put aside our differences, come together as a family, and just have a good dinner together. I don't see anything wrong with this. But then again, if I wore glasses that big, maybe I would. That assessment is, frankly, a steaming pile of BS. And just like a Muslim claiming to be peaceful, there's a problem. Does anyone else think it's kind of ironic that this woman thinks it's an obligation to call out your racist Trump-supporting relatives, but it's not an obligation to act like a decent human being to your family? Liberal logic. Even though Democrats made strides in the 2018 midterm elections, many among us are still terrified of the impact this overtly nationalist, deeply dysfunctional administration will have on people in this country and beyond. This is a common liberal argument that so deserves to be soundly debunked. Many of us are still terrified. You realize that someone being afraid is not an argument. You realize that just if you feel afraid, it does not constitute necessary change or suggest there is a present danger. Your fear is not an argument. There is no amount of civility that can balance the harm of xenophobic nationalism, and no amount of sitting silently while listening to someone spew racial epithets that will repair what Trump and his ilk have broken. It is statistically very likely that a survivor of abuse or person who could face anti-LGBT abuse from your family will be sitting at your Thanksgiving table, and they may not feel safe enough to speak against the use of violent language and homophobic slurs, even if they're hurled by well-meaning family members. What family did this author come from? Who's just casually dropping racial epithets and homophobic slurs at the Thanksgiving dinner table? Hey Mexi, pass the salt. Yo queer, where's that turkey at? Don't say that, Grandma! Like what? For that temporary peace during dinner, you trade an opportunity to make a space you occupy safer for everyone. What's actually happening here is that you're being asked to overlook bigotry in favor of politeness, which is a classic modeling of the way that calls for civility are used to excuse this behavior and suppress pushback against it. Safe from what? Other opinions? Other ideas? Some offensive words? I think your phony safe space argument is just a weak attempt at justifying your childlike behavior to people you disagree with. For those of us who view Trump's policies from a comfortable distance, it's essential to remember that his administration is profoundly hurting people, deporting many to countries where they face certain death, dismantling policies that provide essential protections against discrimination for millions, and emboldening a terrorist to send pipe bombs to journalists and left-leaning politicians. Okay, a few people were deported back to their countries where they were killed. That's absolutely horrible. Human life is human life. However, if you don't want to get deported, don't come here illegally. It's unclear if these cases mentioned in the attached article were all just normal illegals or if they were all seeking asylum. That's a big difference. Secondly, your use of vague terminology is manipulative at best. Trump isn't dismantling policies that stop discrimination. He implemented a religious liberty policy that allows people to deny LGBT patients, which is good and necessary and should be allowed in a free country and a private institution. And finally, I'm not even gonna give your last point any credence. If you honestly think Trump is responsible for the pipe bomb sent to journalists in any way, you're delusional at best and a crazy hoe at worst. Communication experts generally agree with that approach and say that shying away from difficult topics like politics isn't actually good for close family relationships. So according to this article's logic, having adult-like discussions with people you disagree with is a steaming pile of BS, but it's good to have tough conversations with family, I guess if you're the one screaming at the Trump supporter? Logic, where art thou? If you've got a truly virulent bigot awaiting at Thanksgiving, it's important to remember that this person is bitter and afraid of having the privilege that comes with being rich, or white, or male, or all three, stripped away from them as marginalized groups fight for liberation. If they don't see anything wrong with using homophobic language, or screaming about the Second Amendment while everyone's trying to enjoy their turkey and mashed potatoes, then you probably shouldn't feel awkward about letting a few curse words fly in pursuit of telling them to shut the hell up. I really love how their description of a bigot is someone who uses homophobic slurs and supports the Constitution. I also love how they paint the bigot as being terrible for screaming about the Second Amendment, but you screaming back at them is awesome, and you're morally obligated to do so. All in all, I think this article would have made far more sense if it wasn't reliant on such hypothetical and unrealistic situations. I get families come together, and many have different views, but I highly doubt people are hurling homophobic slurs like it's the 50s. You know, I almost feel bad for this author. She's either been ostracized by her family, or she's eaten them, and cannot remember what it's like to have a normal family come together for Thanksgiving without obsessing over the religion of progressivism. Amy, get the turkey baster out of your butt. Please give this video a like, comment below, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks everyone for watching. Don't forget to take advantage of my merch sale. See you all soon. Peace.
Thank you.